This video is going to get shadow banned. They're going to ban me. They're going to put me on the FBI watch list, honey. Hi guys, and welcome to my channel. I'm the Book Geek, also known as Kiava. And today I want to talk to you about some of my priority books that I have to read before I leave this planet, and some priority authors that I would like to read from as well. In past years, I've done an anticipated reads of whichever year we are in. 25 books to read in 2025, 24 books to read in 2024, 23 books to read in 2023. That sort of thing, for instance. I decided that I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do is pick specific authors that I would like to read from. And that won't be just for this year. It will be an ongoing, ever-growing list of notable authors for me, and authors that I find interesting. I find their work interesting, that I would really like to read from, as well as some priority books from those same authors and other authors as well. Certain books that I just have made top priority, books that I feel like are going to resonate with me in some way. Now, for some people, books that they have to read before they die would probably be classics. For others, maybe more historical or nonfiction books. I got a mix of a lot of different types of books that I would like to get to that are priority for me. So throughout the year, I'm making it a point to try and check off some of my priority reads. The list that I have now, I've added more priority reads to my Goodreads list that I have not added to this list that you're going to see, to this spreadsheet that you're going to see today. I will be updating that throughout the year, and that priority reads list will also be an ever-growing, ongoing list. Whenever I come across books that sound like they're going to touch me in a certain type of way, that sound like they're going to impact me in a certain type of way, I add those to the priority read list. And they don't all necessarily have to be classics. Of course, there are some classics on there, but not all of these books are considered classics. I do have a separate reading challenge that I am trying to work towards, where I work my way through some classic books that I want to read. I have so many different reading challenges going on, and they are ongoing. There are things that I'm going to be doing throughout the years, like reading from different countries, reading from my priority reading list, reading books A through Z, reading my backlisted Goodreads books, reading from my shelf, books that have been on there for a while that I already previously owned, versus new books that I have coming in. So I have a lot of things going on, and it has really helped me diversify my reading. I'm already a pretty diverse reader, but it's helped me pay more attention to the type of books that I am picking up and the type of books that I am reading. So anyways, with that being said, let's jump into some of the priority authors, and then I'm going to bring up the spreadsheet and show you some priority books. I'm someone who hasn't always paid attention to the author, the writer of a particular book. I'll just pick up a book and read it and don't really pay much attention to who wrote that book. And as of recently, I've been paying more attention to who's actually writing the stories, because I do think that is important. And so that's where the priority author list came from. But some of these books I added to my priority reads without even acknowledging the author. It's just a book that I would really love to read because I feel like the topic or story is going to resonate with me in some sort of way. So first up on the priority author read list is Philip K. Dick. Now, who was Philip K. Dick, or who is Philip K. Dick? He is a very notable science fiction writer. In fact, one of his stories was adapted into a film, which is very popular. It became a cult classic, and that's Blade Runner. And of course, they made like a follow-up years later. And of course, that movie was based off the book, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, which is one of the books that I would like to read from him. But more specifically, I am interested in his book titled The Three Stigmata of Palmer Eldritch. I hear this one is kind of like, makes you feel like you are living in a different reality. This is a dystopian novel about an overcrowded world. And I think people like create like different worlds. They achieve this through some sort of drug. Palmer Eldritch is going to return from an interstellar trip, and he's going to bring back a new drug. But this new drug is more potent. It can cause them to stay in those worlds permanently. I am a huge fan of the Twilight Zone, the Outer Limits, things like that. This sounds like something from the Twilight Zone. This is the one that's top priority Philip K. Dick story for me. And of course, I would also like to read the one that's based off Blade Runner, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? Another one that I'm very, very interested of his to read is Ubik. I think that's how you pronounce it. There's this guy, Glenn, and he runs some sort of business deploying his team of anti-psychics to corporate clients who want privacy and security from psychic spies. So in this world, we have spies who are psychic. But then his team gets ambushed by some sort of rival, and he gets injured, and he's placed in some sort of like dreamlike state, some sort of like suspended animation. The surviving members of his team begin to experience some weird things as well, some sort of strange phenomenon. And throughout the story, they're going to be trying to find out why this is happening, things like that. The way I describe it doesn't make it sound as interesting. My next priority author is Octavia E. Butler. Believe it or not, I have never read an Octavia Butler book. I haven't read from her yet. I own like 3 of her books. I will be reading Kendrick soon. I am doing a Black reading challenge. I started it back in February, but I have so many books to read. So I'm just continuing on with whatever I'm doing. For the Black reading challenge, I have to pick a book that spells out the word Black, B-L-A-C-K. So for B, for the letter B, I read Bitter. For the letter L, I'll be reading Liberty. For the letter A, I'll be reading Angel of Greenwood. I'll pop a picture up here on the screen so you can see it as well. For the letter C, I'll be reading The Conductors. And for the letter K, I'll be reading Kendrick by Octavia E. Butler. But the book that's number 1 on my list for Octavia E. Butler as a priority author is Parable of the Sower. So am I saying that right? Sower. And I'm very scared to read it now because I know what the story entails. You know, I know what the story is about, and it very much mirrors our real life right now, the state of the world right now. And it is very scary because in her book, I don't know if it happens in that book or if it happens in the sequel or whatever, but where it looks like our world is heading right now, and what happens in her story as far as enslavement and things of that nature coming back into play, it looks like we're headed in that direction. So it's very, very scary, and it's almost as though she predicted the future. And a lot of these dystopian stories mirror our real life, not just now, but from things that have happened in the past as well. And a lot of dystopian novels, believe it or not, are loosely, and some not so loosely, based on things that have happened to Black and Indigenous people in this world, and especially in this country. And so anyone with half a brain cell, even people from Octavia Butler's generation and whatnot, and further back, anyone would have a brain cell who is really paying attention to the way the world is running and the direction in which things are going wouldn't have that much difficulty predicting where we might end up in 2025. And basically everything she wrote about fucking came true. I mean, she was brilliant. So I have to have one of her books on my roster. Next up on the list is a horror author, right up my alley, Eric LaRocca. Is it Eric LaRocca or Eric LaRocca? Somebody let me know how to pronounce that. I think it's Eric LaRocca. It seems as though he has a lot of short horror stories. I love a great short horror story or a great short story in general. When an author can take minimal amount of pages and turn it into a great piece of literature in such a short form sort of content, I love that. I just finished a short story. I've been reading a lot of short stories lately, and I just finished a short story by N.K. Jemisin. This was my first time reading from her. I've been working my way through a lot of the Amazon short stories, and I just finished Emergency Skin by N.K. Jemisin, who is also a priority reader. I've never read anything from her before, but after reading Emergency Skin, I mean, my review for that short story was, wow, this was 6 stars. Like, it was incredible. And so when an author can take, like I said, short form content, minimal amount of pages, minimal amount of words, and write a compelling story that grabs you and hooks you like that, I want to read it. And I think Eric LaRocca is going to do that for me. And I'm a horror girly. I would like to read some of his horror stories. And like I said, his covers really draw me in. And since we already mentioned N.K. Jemisin, N.K. Jemisin is also a priority author for me. Everyone raves about her Broken Earth series. So that is the one that I want to read. But of course, I would love to discover any other work she's done. My next priority author is Brit Bennett. Now, I own one Brit Bennett book, and that is The Mothers. And I haven't read that one yet. But one of the reasons why Brit Bennett is a priority author for me is because the type of stories they write are explorations in culture, race. And from my understanding, she tackles some very serious and sensitive topics in her writing. Those kinds of stories really resonate with me and tend to stick with me for a while. I really love it when my stories have something deep and meaningful to say. I also would like to read her book, The Vanishing Half. Next up on the list is Frederick Backman. Once again, I want to read this author because I hear that the type of stories that they write explore, you know, things of love and loss. And he has some very memorable characters in his writing. That's something that I would like to explore. Another priority author whom I have already read from before is S.A. Cosby. The goal is to read more from him. I read Razor Blade Tears, absolutely fell in love with it. Love that book. It's one of my favorite books. And if he was able to pull that kind of emotion out of me from one of his books, I can't imagine what the others are going to bring to the table for me. So, you know, I cannot wait to get to his other books. I'm going to read his entire catalog. The next priority author is Kazuo Ishiguro. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. I listened to the pronunciation of that name so many times, so I hope I said it correct. But I have never read from this author, of course. That goes without saying. And I'm very interested in reading his books because they deal with a lot of human nature, more specifically Clara and the Sun. Lately, if you watched some of my recent videos, you will know that I've been obsessed with AI and robots. And in Clara and the Sun, there is an artificial being. Those stories about AI and robots and their relationships with humans and how each affect one another. Those type of stories are so fascinating to me. So I would really love to read that book. The next priority author is Murakami. I would like to read from him because from what I understand, he explores a lot of ideas and issues of reality and identity. I would really like to read his book, The Wind Up Bird Chronicle. And of course, if I want to read more science fiction, which I do, that's one of my goals, is to read more science fiction now and in the future, Arthur C. Clarke must be on this list. In his writing, he explores ideas of the future and about human nature and mankind's place in this planet and in this world. Now we're going to jump into the actual spreadsheet so you guys can see some of the particular books that are on my priority reads list. I'm not going to go through and talk about each one. Here's the spreadsheet that I created. This is my priority reads spreadsheet. And as you'll see with most of these books are considered like emotional, devastating, have hard hitting topics. But like I said, those are the books that I connect with the most. So the first one is The Boy in the Striped Pajamas. Next up, we have The Book Thief. It is 1939, Nazi Germany. And we have a book character. She is saving these books from being burned. Not so strangely relevant to today's times. I said this recently. I was having a conversation with somebody and I was like, when alcohol became illegal during Prohibition, how they had speakeasies. I said, pretty soon we're going to have the book version of speakeasies, like hidden libraries where people can go and get banned books and books that have been criminalized, books that have been pulled off shelves, books that have been burned. And also we're going to have those same places be places people can go to access information. Those spaces will become places where people can go to get information that the government is trying to prevent people from having access to. They are trying to control what information we have access to. And so pretty soon we're going to have to do those sort of things in private. It won't be available to us on our home computers because we'll be tracked and monitored. We won't be able to go to the library and access that information. People are going to have to read in secret, certain books in secret, and look up certain information in secret. This is becoming a very scary and real possibility. And we are sort of repeating history. So, this book was written about what happened in the 30s, late 30s, early 40s in Germany. And this was written in 2005, and it is still relevant today. Like literally, my grandfather was born in 1938. His parents were witnesses to the atrocities of the Holocaust. My grandfather was alive during those times, and he is still alive now. And he is witnessing the same thing that his parents witnessed. He was a baby when all that stuff was going on, a young kid and a baby. And now he's grown up and it is repeating itself. It has repeated itself. It has happened twice during his lifetime, basically. Let's say that. That is unacceptable. And so, when people do not know their histories, they are doomed to repeat them. And that's why they want to stop certain information from getting out and stop certain books from getting out to the public, because when people become knowledgeable about certain things, the world becomes a better place. And the people who are trying to make this world a bad place, they don't want that, because they thrive off of the power that they get from ignorant individuals. The people who are trying to make this world a bad place are taking no days off. And so we are right back to 1939 Nazi Germany, where we have to save books and possibly sneak information. This is ridiculous. And The Book Thief is on this list for those reasons. Roots. I mean, what can I say? This book won't be available in libraries or in schools anymore, because it explains a tragic and dark history that America is trying to erase. The autobiography of Malcolm X. I have this book and I will be getting to it soon. I have this book. I'll be getting to this one soon. Malcolm X was a revolutionary. He was an activist and very important man in history. Brave New World, another story that is scarily related to our current times. This video is making me depressed.
Fahrenheit 451. Lord help me, help me. Fahrenheit 451 is a banned book, which ironically enough is a story about banning books. Literally setting books on fire.
Right now, what we are witnessing in our government is that whatever they decide is illegal will be illegal. Anything that goes against their ideas, they can just pick and choose what they decide is wrong, and that's what it's going to be. The people in charge who are committing atrocities are going to decide what's right and what's wrong, and what's right is always going to be whatever fits their agenda. Ready Player One. Of course, our technology is advancing very quickly, and we already have the headsets that people can disappear into. Next to that, we have Animal Farm, which I own that book as well. I think the pigs sort of like uprise and they become like the new oppressors. It sort of reminded me of this book called The Last Quintista. I always recommend this book. For a little while there, I had a children's middle grade book club, and that was the first book that we read, The Last Quintista. The world was getting ready to be destroyed. I think it was like a comet or meteor or something coming towards the planet. A bunch of people got on these spaceships and relocated. They had to go to sleep. So the people who were manning the plane and taking care of the sleeping passengers, they decided this is our opportunity to start anew, to start over. And they erased everybody's memories and took away the human components of them. And they tried to make everybody think the same. They was brainwashing them while they were asleep so that when they woke up, this is what they would think was reality. They taught them a brand new history. Like we're seeing now, some histories being scrubbed and erased their memories of the world. And it took away the things that make us human, like art and music and the good parts of Earth that they would remember, and about their family and about being human that they will remember. And it sort of reminded me of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, how when they invade your body, they take away everything that makes you human, that makes you you, and everybody is basically the same. That's sort of what they were doing in The Last Quintista, because their whole idea was we can start anew, we can take away all the bad things. And by doing that, they became the oppressors. They became the same thing that they were trying to eradicate, the same thing that they were trying to fight against, the same thing that they were trying to get rid of. So the people who started the whole eraser, which is what I call 2025. 2025 is the great erasure of Black, Indigenous, gay, and everything else that they don't like. It had been going on for so long that they forgot why they even started doing it. And it was so fascinating. It was just incredible. It was incredible. And Animal Farm reminds me of that book. I probably did a shitty job explaining it. Watership Down. Recently, I read the graphic novel version of Watership Down and fell in love with it. So, of course, I need to read the actual novelization of it. And this is another story that has animal characters, but it's an allegory for something else, and it contains deeper messaging. It's a story of tyranny, belonging, and home. It's a story of democracy. It's a story of oppression. And once again, it's a story that relates to current times, past times, and if we aren't careful, future times as well. Memoirs of a Geisha. Dracula. I love vampires. And so I have to read Dracula. It's only right. I'm actually on a quest, a very unrealistic quest to read every vampire book ever written. That's not going to happen. That's just me being silly. But I love vampires and I do want to explore a lot of vampire stories. Beloved by Toni Morrison. I love Toni Morrison. She's one of my favorite writers. I read The Bluest Eye. This is a story that explores the tragedy, the trauma, the psychological damage, the emotional damage of slavery. Crime and Punishment. This is another big book, chunky book, that I would feel so accomplished if I were to complete it. It's a story about a man who plans to murder someone for good reason. He believes that if he kills this terrible person, he could use the money that he would get from this crime to liberate himself and perform great deeds. And because he believes that if I commit this crime, it won't be so bad because I'll be doing good things with this money. There are some people who think that way, who think that the good that they're going to do is going to outweigh the bad that they've done. He's trying to convince himself that this crime would be worth it. And so this story sort of explores that idea. Are certain crimes justifiable?
Rosemary's Baby. I am a horror fanatic, so yes, there is horror on this list. We already passed one with Dracula, and some of these dystopian stories are pretty horrifying as well.
To Kill a Mockingbird, another classic. The Handmaid's Tale. No Uterus, No Opinion. The Hunchback of Notre Dame, a story of discrimination, a story about marginalized individuals being mistreated. Yep. The Little Prince. I actually own this book. I need to find my copy and maybe I will. It's a small book, short book. It's one that I want to read with my son, my youngest son. So I might be doing that sooner than later and check that one off. This story basically explores how we should see the world, how we should feel it. It takes me back to what I had said earlier about The Last Quintista, how when they erased people's memories, they took away the things that make us human. Art is something that's very important to humankind, mankind. There's a sort of power in art form, in art, what humans can create. I connected The Little Prince with that. For instance, when I was like in my 20s, I was in this work program and we had a meeting. And they put this painting on the table and it was sort of like a personality examination. They put this painting on the table and this painting was, this drawing painting, this piece of art was full of stuff. And they told us to write down what we see. And so there were some people who wrote down exactly what they saw. Like I see a ball, I see a boy, I see a cloud, I see, water. And then there were people like me who wrote down what they saw, but it was more like, oh, I see hunger, I see death, I see pain. It was more expressive. Instead of just naming off the exact items that were painted on the canvas, we expressed ourselves in a more deeper manner. They could understand how we saw what we saw, and we couldn't understand how they were looking at the painting. Like, no, they asked you to say what you saw. Like, it was a clash of personalities. There were only two types of answers. Some people who pointed out specific items in the painting, and then those of us who pointed out more emotional things that they saw in the painting. And once again, I'm relating that to The Little Prince because the story is supposed to be about seeing the world with your heart and not just your eyes. And that is how I saw the painting. I saw war, I saw death, I saw pain and anger, and all they saw was what they could see with their eyes. A boy, a cloud, a ball. You know what I'm saying? It was so interesting. Next up, we have The Giver. On the outside, it looks like a world that is a sort of utopia. There's no pain, there's no suffering. Kind of reminds me of Scythe as well. But deep down and beneath the surface, it's also a place without happiness or individuality. And we have this one boy who is sort of like the keeper of memories, I believe, like memories of the past. And because he has all these memories, he's going to begin to question his society. People should be unique. Diversity is important. We shouldn't all be the same. And we're living in a society now where people find that differences are evil. Differences are hated. And I was saying this to somebody recently that, you know, they're trying to erase Black people's contributions to America. They're trying to erase history. They're trying to pull certain books off the shelves. Anything that talks about gayness or Blackness or the indigenous population. They're trying to get rid of those things. It is the great erasure of 2025. And I was saying to somebody, you know, right now they're legally deporting people. And once they get rid of all the Latinos that they don't want here anymore, all immigrants that they don't want here anymore, and they're going to come after the Black people next. And of course, once they get rid of all the people that they don't like, that they see are marginalized, that they see are different, of course, America is going to be, there's going to be equality in America because everyone will be the same. Everyone that's left will be the same. Everybody that they deem different, they're trying to get rid of. And the only people who are going to be left here are all the ones who think the same. And sameness is a boring place. I don't want to live in a world where we're all the same. Diversity is what brings beauty to this world. It kind of reminds me of this Twilight Zone episode. I think it's called number something looks just like you or something like that. Once they reached a certain age, they had to get surgery to look like everybody else. And there were only a few different faces and body types to choose from. And you didn't keep anything unique. You didn't keep anything unique about yourself. And it was one girl who was questioning it and she didn't want to get the surgery. And I'm going to pop it up here on the screen. If you haven't seen that episode, you should really go watch it. It was very, very interesting. But it was all about conformity and getting rid of your individuality. And there was no inclusivity because everybody was the same. You know what I mean? We have Lord of the Flies. Classic. This next book, I watched the movie. Oh, just thinking about it, like my eyes are welling up. I'm getting very emotional the older I get because I just be crying at the drop of a dime. It's titled The Stoning of Soraya M. I just stumbled across this movie by accident. Why am I fucking crying? Why am I crying?
In the movie, there's a woman. Is she Iranian? God, my eyes are stinging, y'all, because I got tears in my eyes. Thinking about it, I have not seen this movie in years. And just thinking about it just made my eyes well up. This is crazy, y'all. I don't know why I'm crying. I don't know why I'm crying, y'all. It's the story of, I think she's Iranian, and she's married, and her husband is stepping out on her, and he wants to be with this other woman that he's been messing around with. And so he creates this lie, and Soraya suffers the consequences of this lie. She is buried in the sand and stoned to death. The way that movie ripped my heart out. I can't even talk about this shit. I have not seen this in years. I'm fucking crying.
All right. We got to cut. I got to get myself together here. I'm way too emotional to be trying to read all these devastating books. The movie devastated me and touched me in such a way. And then when I found out it was a book, I just had to read it because I want to see how this plays out on paper. I don't know if this is based on a real life story, but I do know crimes against women like this were happening and are still happening. So yeah, the next one is another one that I found through a movie. A lot of our favorite movies and a lot of the greats are based on books, y'all. The House of Sand and Fog. You have this woman who has just lost her house. This is her family home. It's been passed down to her. She couldn't maintain it. She couldn't keep up with the bills and whatnot. She lost her house and she had to leave. She had to move. And then you have this immigrant family. They buy the house, they move in. And she torments this family. She's a white woman and they are an immigrant family. I can't remember where they come from. I want to say somewhere in the Middle East. They're now living in her former home, but she still sees this as her home. This is very much a story about privilege, and white audacity. She torments this family. And I don't know how accurate the movie is to the book, but in the movie, she meets this guy and they start a relationship. And I believe he had a wife and family. So he's cheating on his wife with this woman who was also an alcoholic, by the way. So she meets this guy. He happens to be a cop. And he abuses his power to help her harass this family. This is another book that's going to fucking make me cry. Talking about this is going to make me cry. Things escalate and take a turn for the worse. The movie devastated me. So I want to see how accurate the movie was to the book. I'm terrified to read this book. Terrified. I know I'm going to cry. I'm crying just talking about it. Life of Pi. Another movie I saw that made me want to read the book. The Children of Men. A lot of these books that I have on my priority reading list have been adapted into movies that are my favorite movies. The Children of Men, Life of Pi, House of Sand and Fog, The Stoning of Soraya M. Those are some of my favorite movies. The Children of Men. That movie. Right here. In this book, it is 2021 and the human race is facing extinction due to infertility issues. There's a woman that pops up pregnant. That's going to cause a whole lot of cause and effect in a world of trouble. This next book was written last year. I love the cover. It is titled The Blueprint. It's a story that is going to explore body autonomy. It's a harrowing novel set in an alternate United States, a world of injustice and bondage. There's a young Black woman in Texas. She lives in a society where an algorithm dictates her occupation, spouse, and residence. This sounds like some Black Mirror shit. The Color Purple. We know what The Color Purple is about, by Alice Walker. 1984. Big Brother is Watching. Chain Gang All Stars. I just recently purchased this book. People in prison are having sort of like death matches. And I think they can fight to the death to earn their freedom. A Psalm for the Wild Built. This is part of my robot AI futuristic obsession that I've had lately. Next on the list, we have Psycho, another horror story, and another movie that I love, The Drowned World. You might have noticed a sort of pattern here with a lot of the books that are on my priority reading list. They are books that deal with social injustices and the changing world around us. In this book, solar radiation has melted the polar ice caps. This is set during the year 2145, and it follows a biologist and his team of scientists as they confront a surreal cityscape populated by giant iguanas, albino alligators, and endless swarms of insects. Oh my God. Before dinosaurs existed, the planet, the world was ruled by giant insects. I would have never survived in a world with giant insects. No. Oh my God, it's so scary. I'm going to link some of the recent YouTube videos that I've been watching about ancient and prehistoric things. It's very, very interesting. I have seen these things before, but I've discovered some new things, and it's very interesting. Next up, we have Shadow of the Wind. Shadow of the Wind is another book that explores the importance of the written word, why books are important. Sky Full of Elephants. In this story, one day all the white people just kill themselves in like a mass suicide event. That right there alone was enough to pique my interest. And so I think this story is going to explore what a world, or at least in America, would look like without white people. Maya Angelou's I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. Homegoing. This is a generational story about generational trauma. It follows two half-sisters and their descendants across 8 generations, tracing the impact of slavery and colonization, and the impact that that had on their families. Another book about generational trauma that would have been on this list if I hadn't already read it is Breath, Eyes, Memory. I'll pop it up here in the corner so you can see that book. I highly, highly recommend. The way I was just reading this book and thinking this was just like, a mother and daughter at odds. They're just having a rough time. What is the deeper issue here? And when you find out what the deeply rooted issue is there, it will rip your fucking heart out. Read it. One of my favorite books. Read it. Americana. This is a story of immigration, of cultural identity. This woman immigrates to the United States to attend university, which now she would get arrested and deported for that now. It navigates the complexities of race in the United States. Let's move on.
I who have never known men. This is on my spring TBR. One of my kids picked this book out for me to read when my TBR will landed on Kids Pick. This is about women who have never had positive relationships with men. They have been kept in cages underground. We don't know why. And they're going to come to the surface. And now rise up. Rise like the day. I'll rise up.
The Memory Police. Another story of erasing. It's another erasure event. Sort of like the great erasure of 2025. There is an unnamed island, and on this island, objects, concepts, these things just mysteriously disappear from people's memory. There's a group that is tasked with erasing people's memories. They are called the Memory Police. They make sure these disappearances are permanent. And with that comes the erasure of people's histories and people's culture. It's a story that's going to explore a controlled society. If I Had Your Face, this is a book that is going to explore beauty standards. This is another topic that I'm very, very interested in. If you know any other compelling stories, even some horror stories that explore issues of body image or beauty standards, let me know down below. Leave me those recommendations. I know of some others, and probably some other ones that I will be adding later on to this priority reading list. But if you know of any, let me know. A Short Stay in Hell. I love the premise of this story so much. So there is a man who dies and he wakes up in hell. And basically hell is like this vast library. It's his own personal hell. And he can only escape by finding the book that contains the story of his life. And it seems like an impossible sort of quest. It's literally the library of hell, which for book lovers and book readers such as myself, you would think that dying and waking up in this place with endless books, this library, would be like heaven sent. But that is not the case for this man. In the story, The Measure, I think everyone's like lifespan is measured with like a piece of string or something. And basically the story explores the idea of what people would do and how people would behave if they knew their exact life expectancy, their lifespan, how long they are going to live. Dune is a classic. Before the Coffee Gets Cold, this is a time travel story. I think it's like this little cafe or coffee shop or something where you can go, you can travel back in time. If Cats Disappeared from the World, this is the story about a postman who discovers he has a terminal illness and he makes a deal with the devil. And this deal that he makes with the devil is he will gain extra time by making items disappear from the world. Each item's disappearance forces him to reflect on his life and the impact it has had on him and others. And it explores themes of loss, reconciliation, and the meaning of life. Afterland. I love this cover. Most of the men are dead. 3 years after the pandemic known as the man fall, governments still hold and life continues, but a world run by women isn't always a better place. 12-year-old Miles is one of the last boys alive, and his mother, Cole, will protect him at all costs. On the run after a horrific act of violence and pursued by Cole's own ruthless sister, Billy, all Cole wants is to raise her kid somewhere he won't be preyed on as a reproductive resource or a sex object or a stand-in son, someplace like home. This premise reminds me of the graphic novel Why the Last Man. I'll pop it up here on the screen. Next up, we have Lonely Castle in the Mirror. This is another story that has one of my favorite things, and that is a portal. The next book is titled Poppy Show. There's a lot of magic involved in this story. Everyone in Poppy Show was born with some sort of special trait. Poppy Show is a place in need of change. This next book was on a lot of people's favorite book of the year. So many people have been raving about this book, and it is titled James. James, or Jim, is a character from Huckleberry Finn. And this story just takes a little deeper dive into James' part of the story, or James's life. It's a reimagining of Huckleberry Finn.
It's a story about how women are very limited in this society that they live in now. There's a lottery system. On the day of your first bleed, you must report to the station to learn what kind of woman you will be. Lovely. A white ticket grants you marriage and children. A blue ticket grants you a career and freedom. You are relieved of the terrible burden of choice. Women no longer have a choice. It's such a burden for women that they took it away from us. You see, we've done you women a favor. We will make the decisions for you. And once you've taken your ticket, there is no going back. But what if the life you're given is the wrong one? What if that's the life I don't want to live? What if you understand that I'm smart enough to make my own goddamn decisions?
Our main character is a blue ticket woman, and she begins to question her faith, and she's going to go on the run. This book is a fucking horror novel. The idea is horrifying. This next book, The Perishing. We have a black immortal, and she is here to save the world. Black woman saving the day, saving the world again.
The Tusk of Extinction. This book, I'm very angry at what scientists are doing right now. I'm very scared and I'm very angry. They have been working on bringing a mammoth back for years. In fact, I think they brought back something, a part of a mammoth or a baby mammoth. I can't remember. But they say by 2028, there will be mammoths roaming the planet again, or at least they're going to have a live mammoth by 2028. And they just recently brought back a direwolf. My issue with that is, take that quote from Jurassic Park. Your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think if they should. We can barely keep the animals that we already have here alive and safe and well. The way the planet and the world and the land was when mammoths were walking this planet, that's not the way the earth looks or is designed now. Do you fucking know how big a mammoth is?
When mammoths walked this planet, things were more vast. There was a bigger scope of land for mammoths to roam. We don't have that now. We don't have the space for a fucking mammoth. And we can't even take care of the animals that we already have here. Why would you want to bring something back that's been long extinct just for it to die again? Because that's eventually what's going to happen. They're going to go extinct again. And this book is on my list because of my anger from what scientists are doing. They're going to bring back a long extinct species. They're going to resurrect a mammoth in this fucking story.
We can't even take care of the animals we fucking have here. We can't even take care of the people we have here. How the fuck you trying to bring back a species that's been long extinct when we can't even take care of the things we have here now? What, bring it back just to kill it again? Just for it to die again? It's gonna mess up the ecosystem. The same thing with the direwolves. You know how fucking big a direwolf is? A direwolf will kill the wolves that we already have. Wolves that already exist. The wolves that we know to exist. It will kill them too. Do you know how fucking big a direwolf is? It's gonna mess up the ecosystem. It's gonna disrupt things. They need to stop trying to play God. Some of the animals that have gone extinct is due to human interference. So imagine humans fuck up your land, your food supply, kill you, and then they got the nerve to bring you back. Because it's not going to stop with mammoths and direwolves. Can you imagine that? I'm going to kill you and then bring you back and kill you again. Like, what kind of shit is that?
And dinosaurs will be next. And all the evil motherfuckers of the world are going to have the most vicious dinosaurs. Motherfuckers going to have a T-Rex as a guard dog. We don't want some of them evil people that are ruling to get their hands on a fucking dinosaur. Okay? Oh, makes me so angry. The Tusk of Extinction. Let's move on. It's almost 1:30 in the morning. I think I'm going to finish the rest of these tomorrow. I can't talk anymore. I've talked. I'm angry. I've cried. I've experienced every fucking emotion during this video. And we're not done yet. Can I run through any of these very quickly? The Wild Robot. I read that one already.
Clara and the Sun. That is another book about artificial intelligence, artificial life. A History of Violence. I can only tell you what this is based off the movie. It's one of my favorite movies. And it's about a man who was sort of like, when we meet him, he's sort of like a small town family dad, small business owner, family man. These guys come into town and he uses some skills that a small town family man should not know to try and defeat these bad guys that come into town. And it puts him under the spotlight. And that gets the attention of some very dangerous people from his past. And his family and everyone else learns some things about him that he thought he had long buried away. The movie is incredible. So if the book is anything like the movie, definitely want to read that. Elysium, another one of my favorite movies about a futuristic world. It's about privilege and discrimination and gentrification. A lot of politics involved, medical discrimination. Basically, all the rich people have taken all their money and they have flown to space and deserted the poorest of the people down here on Earth. They have flown up to space and created a community in space where they can flourish and live and drink all the wine and have all the sun baths and shit that they want and all the caviar they want, while the people left on Earth suffer. Earth is deteriorating. People are poor and struggling. It's overcrowded. And so some people stand up and fight back and revolt. And they're going to go up there and they're going to demand equity and equality. And the movie is fucking fantastic. It's starring, what's his name? I forgot his name. The dude who played Jason Bourne. Why the fuck I can't remember his name? He played in The Departed. I'll pop it up here on the screen. It's 1:30 in the morning. That's why I can't remember shit. Yeah, blindness. I believe in that book, some sort of event happens and a bunch of people suddenly go blind. And it's an exploration of what would happen if something like that on a wider scale was to happen spontaneously to everybody. There's a hierarchy, power, struggles, the people in power. Still, even when we all collectively are struggling with this thing, how people will still be monsters to one another and find some way to control people and hurt people.
Shutter Island, The Revenant. I didn't know how emotionally draining this video was going to be. Yeah, I need to go watch some cartoons. I'll see you guys back for part 2. All right, we are back for part 2 of this video. And as you can see, I've rearranged myself. I'm sitting in a different position. And I really just put this hat on because I don't feel like doing my hair. And it was the closest color hat I had to match this shirt. So next up on the list is The Sword of Kaigen. This is on my priority reading list because it is a standalone high fantasy book that explores themes of family in the aftermath of war. Now, there are tons of high fantasy stories that explore these same things, some of which I may add to my priority reading list as well, some of which are on my Goodreads want to read list. But I've heard amazing things about this one in particular. And so for those reasons, I have it on this list. My Volcano. Now, I heard of this book, I want to say 1 or 2 years ago. It was weird enough for me to find interesting.
This is a science fiction book with elements of magical realism. On June 2nd, 2016, a protrusion of rock is spotted by a jogger growing from the Central Park Reservoir. 3 weeks later, when it finally stops growing, it's nearly 2.5 miles tall and has been determined to be an active volcano. So there's like this active volcano growing in the middle of Central Park. And as the volcano grows and then looms over New York, an 8-year-old boy in Mexico City finds himself transported 500 years into the past, where he witnesses the fall of the Aztec Empire. A Nigerian scholar in Tokyo studies a folktale about a woman of fire who descends a mountain and destroys an entire village. A white trans writer in Jersey City struggles to write a sci-fi novel about a thriving civilization on an impossible planet. A nurse tends to Syrian refugees in Greece while grappling with the trauma of living through the bombing of a hospital. in Afghanistan. A nomadic farmer in Mongolia is stung by a bee, magically transforming him into a green thorn flowering creature that aspires to connect every living thing into its consciousness. This is fucking weird. This synopsis explains nothing to me. I have no idea the direction the story is going to go in. It's another one of those stories where we have different characters and different locations that I think all may connect or may share something of importance to the main plot.
It was so strange. I was like, I have to read this because now I need to know what the hell's going on. And that is why it's on this priority list. James Baldwin, he's also a priority author of mine. I should have mentioned him earlier. The next book is The Water Dancer. Next up on the list is a book titled Kai Ki. I hope I'm saying that correctly. And this is a feminist retelling. It is a story of courage and family and heartbreak. It's about a woman who is determined to leave her mark on a world that's ruled and determined by men. The Lantern of Lost Memories. So in this book, there's a magical photo studio where people go after they die to view key moments from their life. Interesting. They can, I guess, decide to relive one precious memory before they pass into the afterlife. Like, how lovely would that be to be able to have that as you're going? You know what I'm saying? Like, have something positive to look at before you pass into the afterlife. Like, I thought that was just really amazing, a really amazing concept. Those are all the books that I have on my priority reading list so far. I will be updating the list as the months go on. There are so many others. Anyways, that's it for me for right now. I will see you guys in my next one. Bye.